So the Synod on Synodality has concluded this year's phase, and there's been a lot of debate in the church on this. When I saw the Irish synthesis document, I said, "Well, really, what wasn't in that document was shocking." And it's interesting to see now with the synthesis that came out. I was very surprised at what famous Jesuit Father James Martin said in the tablet. It's very revealing now that, once the final document is out, he comes out now what he's disappointed with. So I'm just going to read you this piece that came in the tablet. I do think it's interesting, something that is worth discussing. So one source close to the Synod proceedings put it this way: the progressives got the process and the conservatives got the content. The final document did not use the term LGBTQ Catholics, as the working document had, despite the shift in pastoral approach the Pope has modelled over the last decade. I would suspect that most LGBTQ Catholics will be disappointed that they are not even mentioned in the final synthesis. Father James Martin, S.J., the Jesuit priest who has a high-profile ministry to gay Catholics, said afterwards, "The document, as it turns out, does not reflect the fact that the topic of LGBTQ people came up repeatedly in both many table discussions and in plenary sessions, and provoked widely diverging views. Nevertheless, Father James Martin stressed that the Synod was a great grace and that it hasn't finished yet." So that's James Martin now finally revealing some of his cards that he's not too happy with the synthesis document, which at the end of the day is as he said, it's only the beginning. So he's obviously holding out hope that there will be some change in the future. When I read through the document, I was just thinking, what is not in it? If we think of the church today and how we're supposed to evangelize, what is not in that document? There was a lot in the document for women. And again, I have nothing against that. We should engage everybody in the church. Everybody, should be there and engaged in the church. And it does mention women over 50 times in that document. But if you were a married man, a layman, a young person, there was very little in that synod for you. If we think of the scourge of abortion, not mentioned at all. If we think of the scourge of pornography, and I say this because, men talk about this, the scourge of addictions, the fact, suicide not even mentioned once in this document. I mean, did I get this right? Yeah, so suicide, depression, like, I don't know what bubble the church is living in, but if you want to evangelize in the real world, you have to tackle the problems in the real world. And I'm not sure those actually called to the Synod actually live in the real world and face real world issues. Because if we're to bring the gospel into the lives of people that are suffering, we have to understand what are the problems in this world today. And while James Martin might be disappointed that his favourite term didn't get mentioned in the synthesis document, I would ask, well, what about men? What is the church doing as an outreach to catechize men, to teach men, to give the hope and the joy of the gospel to men? I'm not talking about clerics here. It's kind of, people say, oh, there's already men in the church, that's fine, Well, they don't seem to be engaging with men today in a real way. What are the specific male problems that men are suffering, and how can the church engage and evangelize in there? And it's not mentioned at all. Did the discussion come up? I wonder. Because the problems that men suffer, the problems that specific male problems that women don't face as in the same way that men are facing: drugs, addiction, failed marriages, failed relationships, all of this drama, this cancer that men suffer from, it could be alleviated if we brought them the gospel. if they actually had a personal relationship with God, if we brought the faith into their lives and how they would be transformed by knowing Christ. And I think, it's an epic failure for the church today in not even addressing that. So, people say, oh, you can be disappointed that your favorite topic isn't in the census document, but other topics were not discussed at all. It seems it were not discussed. I'm just reading through it. Abortion not discussed. I mean, behind every abortion, there's the tragedy of a couple who didn't understand either themselves or the child being aborted. I would love the church to sit back and examine how you can actually preach this gospel in the real world today. Because if you look around Ireland, and I can only talk about my own country, and we see the 500 to 600 men every year take their lives. Men that take their lives. Men caught up in addictions, men caught up in gambling. It's not. I'm just saying this because there are issues that are specific to men. That there are specific issues that, if the church wanted to, they could tackle differently. And so I'm calling men to stand up, to love the faith, to preach the faith, and to evangelize it to them. Because if you have strong men in families, you have strong families. Fatherhood. I was just thinking, fatherhood. What is a man called to be? In essence, it's called to fatherhood. Was it discussed? Was fatherhood actually discussed? What are we teaching kids today in schools to get a career? But they are called to be fathers and mothers. I don't know what planet the Vatican is living in sometimes when I see this document coming out. And I saw it with the Irish census document. And I said, you're really failing to tackle the real issues, that the gospel message, that the encounter with Christ transforms people's lives. It gets in there and transforms people's lives. And that's why I'm encouraging people to go up to Derry to see the work that the Derry Catholics are doing in transforming people's lives, the Cursillo movement. So, Father James Martin is disappointed that his favourite acronym didn't get mentioned in the document. But at the end of the day, we're all created in the likeness and image of God. We're all children of the Father, and we should leave acronyms aside and accept our true identity as sons and daughters of God, and accept this beautiful faith that God wants to give us. Anyway, that's my take on it, Father James Martin, and I hope church leaders can kind of wake up and reread your synthesis document, reread it, and understand that you're trying to address some topics. You're actually not addressing the fundamental issues that is facing the church today. That you're not able to evangelize where the gospel needs to go. What is the mission of a married man, for example, in the church today? What does, or any man really, when you read the synthesis document, what is this mission? Because not every man feels called to religious life, to the priesthood, or even if they're discussing married priests, not every man will want to be a married priest, even at that. But we're all, there should be a call to men to take up the mission of preaching and teaching the gospel and bringing it into the lives of other men, of men forming other men, and to be better fathers, to have better relationships, to understand themselves better, to understand their problems better, to understand the problems of addiction, and all of these things that destroy men slowly. Anyway, I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Is it just me that's wondering, well, what's in this document for married men, for example? When James Martin is saying, LGBTQ Catholics weren't mentioned in the document. Well, women are mentioned 41 times, and I don't see a single mention about Men. Or am I missing something? Men. Let me see. Men. Not mentioned. Man. And not mentioned. Father. I mean, as regards a married father. Fatherhood. No, not mentioned. The only time it's talking about father is the Holy Father. The father. Yeah. Okay. Laymen. So laymen is mentioned twice. All the missionaries, laymen and laywomen. Okay. So like just if you think about it, what are the real issues that stop men engaging more in the faith? And how can we engage men in the faith? Because when Christ formed his first apostles, he called 6 men, then he called another 6 men, and he evangelized and catechized those men, and to be able to go out and preach the gospel. And today we seem to be failing in the church to actually catechize, evangelize, and form men in the faith. Because if you have a well-formed man in the faith, he's not going to be suffering from what so many men suffer from, in cycles of addiction and of depressions and so forth. The faith is a beautiful encounter with Christ, and this is what we need to preach more in the church. Anyway, my thoughts on it. I don't know. I found it a very interesting month, but it seems like the progressives got the process and the conservatives got the content. This is what's being quoted in the tablet. Let me know what you think in the comments. God bless you. Take care. Bye bye.